for. And so we didn't have any time to stop or grab our raincoats. We were already heading up Big Crow, and it was bad. The trail turned into a river in like 30 seconds, and we just kept pushing through. But it went from like a beautiful day. I was so psyched. We were just like, 2 more mountains. It's going to be so fast. We only have like a couple more miles to do total. And then we were just soaked for the rest of the time.
That's tough at that point in the day too, to get rained on. But so yeah, I remember what the weather was like that weekend. So it was hot and humid, and then of course it broke with a torrential downpour right as you're starting your second to last mountain. That's tough. That is tough.
Yeah, and it was especially tough mentally because I was just so ready to be done at that point, and then you gotta do the last 2 mountains dripping wet. It was just terrible.
It's amazing that you guys kept pushing, and you kept pushing though, despite all of the, despite the unfortunate circumstances of the weather, you didn't quit. So props to both of you for not quitting. Now I do know, based on something I saw your father post on your social media pages, somebody left you a note on your car at the trailhead for Hurricane and Big Crow. Tell me about that.
Girl that we met on the top of Hurricane, we had spent a lot of time talking to her, and she was a trail runner. When we first got to the Hurricane parking lot, she had just started, and she was trail running up. And when we got to the top, we had talked to her about like all the things we were doing, and me being a 46er and everything. And she had passed us on the way down. And when we got back to our car, she had left a little encouragement note in the back of my dad's car.
And that is an amazing thing, and that is what makes the hiking community in the Adirondack such a fantastic community of people, that somebody you don't know that you just passed on the trail would be there to cheer you on, especially with you being as young as you are. Everyone who's, every adult sees what you're doing, and it's absolutely incredible. So it's awesome that person left you a note of encouragement, and I have to think that must have been a morale booster and a nice pick me up as you start the final push up the 2 mountains to finish the day.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Very cool. So you're on your way up Big Crow, which is steep, don't stub your nose, and it is a river probably at this point that you're hiking through as the rain just pours down onto you. So how long did it take you guys to get up Big Crow at this point, and what did it feel like when you were on that summit knowing you have 1 more to go?
It was honestly pretty draining. When we got to the top, the rain had stopped a bit, but we were just soaking wet, and so we had just gotten out there as quick as possible, but now everything was wet. The trail was a river, and I was just dodging water at all of the corners had turned into streams everywhere. So going down was just, don't slip and fall on anything that you step on, because everything is a puddle and everything is soaking wet.
Definitely. Now, what did you guys eat and drink throughout the day? What was your fuel like on this hike?
Our water had liquid IV in it. Every water bottle had a packet of that stuff. And our food was we had all sorts of stuff, some dried fruit, some trail mix, some granola bars. We had all sorts of stuff that we normally bring on hikes, but we kept most of it in the car. And we had an assortment of stuff. Oh, yeah. And we always have, I had cupcakes for breakfast. That's a normal thing, though.
Nice.
I always have cupcakes for breakfast before hikes.
Sounds awesome. I eat a lot of Snickers bars on hikes, so I know how that goes. Those calories don't count. The sugar doesn't count. Mm-hmm. It's all good on those days. I totally understand that. So you're on Big Crow. You got back down. You survived the river to get you back down to the trailhead. You are on Big Crow. You're at Crow's Clearing, so you're going to drive down Hurricane Road. How fitting to get to the Baxter Mountain trailhead for your final mountain. So what did it feel like on that final drive going to the last mountain, which again, compared to many that you've hiked that day, is a shorter peak?
Yeah. I really did not want to. I was just like, I didn't want to quit. No, I'm not saying I didn't want to quit because I knew I could like see the finish line. We were so close, but getting out of the car at that point was just like so hard. I was just like, can't we just go home? And it was hard, honestly. But going up Big Crow, I was taking it one step at a time. It wasn't a hard hike, none at all. But going up, I was just like, I do not want to be here at all. But I just have to get to the summit because I have gone this far. I cannot turn around. I've gone through so much. I can't quit now. So no matter how hard it is, I'm just going to keep walking.
I appreciate that. That is the correct attitude, and props to you for pushing through that and, forcing yourself to go a little further and keep going and not quit, even though just everything in your body says, I want to go home. No one's making me do this. Why am I here? I can just leave right now. Amazing. So you got to the top of Baxter. Take us through what that must have felt like as you were approaching the summit for you and your dad.
So Baxter was great. Honestly, the sun was going down, but it wasn't setting. So like, it wasn't dark, but the sun was definitely going down, and the summit was beautiful, seeing the sunset. But I didn't want to spend too long there. We just kind of sat and looked at the view for a minute, and then we kept going because, why waste enough time on the last peak when you can just get down and be done with this and go to Stewart?
Sure. So there wasn't like a big summit moment like, yes, we did it, because of course you still have to go back down the mountain. So at that point it wasn't very climactic is what you're telling me once you guys got to the summit of the ninth peak of the day.
Yeah, it wasn't like super climactic because we were just, we're here. Okay, let's go down now.
Sure. No, I know that feeling. Some days you're out in the high peaks for so long, you're looking around and you're like, I don't care about any of this right now. I just want to go back to my car and I want to go to Stewarts and get a milkshake. No, I can relate very much. So did you guys just book it down the mountain? And was there like a moment was the celebratory moment when you got back to the car, or was there no celebratory moment really?
I feel like the celebratory moment was more like at Stewarts when we were like taking pictures and just we kind of celebrated there after we had already finished and gotten changed and everything and weren't soaking wet anymore. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the moment where we were like, we just did it. Yay. This is awesome. Everything is great.
All right.
We're not sad anymore.
The Lake Placid Ultra 9'er brought to you by Stewarts Milkshakes. Drink up. Yep. Very cool. Well, that's great. So you guys finished at 7:04 p.m. So yeah, it would have still been daylight, and 17 hours and 14 minutes of a long day of hiking and driving and climbing. Amazing work. Yeah. So now, as you were drinking your milkshake, how did your body feel? How'd your dad feel? How were your feet? Did you slip into some Crocs or sandals or immediately after? How did your body feel once you got back to the car and you were like, you're done now?
It hurt, honestly. It didn't want to do anything else. So after the hike, I just kind of like got into the back of the car and just laid there for the next like 4 hours until we got home, or I got to my grandma's house. And I didn't want to do anything. I was just, we're done now. I'm just going to drink this milkshake and not move for the next 3 hours. Don't make me do anything.
Yeah, sure. So you're telling me that after this, you guys started driving home 4 hours. I mean, I know you guys live further than that, but you started the drive home. Man, I'm clapping right now for your dad. That is once again another textbook dad move. Hey, you got to get somewhere. Of course, you're the kid. You get to go in the back and go to sleep, and he's going to drive. I've been the kid on that end of the stick in my life with my own father. So props once again to your dad on just coming through in the clutch when I can assure you he did not want to go driving anywhere at that point. Amazing. Absolutely incredible. Real quick. And most importantly, perhaps on this entire podcast, what kind of milkshake did you get at Stewart's?
Plain chocolate. I just got a plain chocolate milkshake. and it was delicious.
All right. And yeah, it hits hard. It hits very hard. All right, cool. That's amazing stuff. Congratulations to you. So I mean, what you're doing out there in general, but obviously your age plays an enormous part in it, because you don't see many people your age out on the trail, let alone absolutely destroying miles like you're doing. I've had a lot of women on this podcast, especially as of late, a lot of in recent episodes that are, very inspirational out there to many people out on the trails. And whether you think you are or not, you absolutely are, especially at this point. What you're doing out there at such a young age in the woods is fascinating. So what would you say to people who, especially people your age, kids, younger people who, want to get out there and give hiking a try? What would you say to them? Or people who don't think that they want to do that, what would you say to them?
I would say for people who want to get out and try hiking, that it's not always going to come easy. And part of hiking is the pain and the suffering. And my favorite thing about hiking is overcoming the challenges and the pain that will naturally occur. And that hiking isn't like an easy thing that's just walking. It's way more than that. And nothing will go according to plan. Not everything will be like you picture it. It's always going to come differently than you expect it. So that's what I would say.
You are wise beyond your years, very much so. That's incredible stuff. I want you to know what you do out on the trail. So I have the utmost respect for a couple of people who've been on this podcast recently, Bethany Garrettson and Katie Rhodes. They do absolutely incredible stuff out there. I want you to know that in my mind, you are up there in the same book as those two ladies. What you're doing in your own regard, what they do, it's absolutely incredible. So seriously, unbelievable respect for you and what you're doing out there. It's incredible. So what's your next adventure for you and Dad? What's next on the docket?
So hopefully our next adventure that we were planning was to do the Great Range Traverse at some point this fall.
Great choice.
And then the Winter 46 Peaks. Not going to finish this year, but doing more and more as we go.
Very cool. Yeah, the Great Range Traverse. I mean, at this point in your not hiking career, that's a dumb word, but for lack of a better word, hiking career, that seems like the appropriate next hike. And yeah, it's the best day. It's the best day. To date, the time I did the Great Range Traverse is my favorite day of hiking ever. Yeah, that's a great choice. Very nice. So I have some final questions as we start to wrap up this episode here. I always like to ask people these questions here on the Summit Sessions, and let's hear what your answers are. So what is something unique that you always like to keep in your backpack when you're out hiking that you just you need to have with you when you go hiking?
So this kind of applies to the winter hiking more, but when we go winter hiking, something I will always have in my backpack and I will never go hiking without is the Hostess cupcakes. I bring those on almost every hike that I go on, and we always have them on the summit.
Of course, Hostess cupcakes. Okay. Now they don't freeze at all, I would imagine, in the winter as well, or do they freeze?
That's why we bring them.
Okay.
We bring them because they don't freeze or anything. Yeah.
Sure, because I actually, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, and often on this podcast, I'm a big Snickers fan when I'm hiking, and I actually love the frozen Snickers in the wintertime, where they basically break your teeth as you try to eat them. So I actually really enjoy that in the winter. And in the winter, my peanut butter M&Ms also freeze, but it adds a really nice, unique texture to them that I really enjoy in the wintertime. So my next question, what in your mind makes the Adirondack Mountains a unique place?
Okay. I'd have to say how supportive and welcoming everyone in the Adirondack community is. All the people that I reach out to or who reach out to me are just the most encouraging people I've ever met. Like Bethany and Katie, through the LP 9'er challenge, they were just supporting me. They were texting me the entire time, telling me to keep going, encouraging me. And I find that really special about the Adirondacks, that everyone that we meet, even out there on the trail, is always just so encouraging and so nice.
And I would agree. I think this is the type of place where everybody is rooting for everyone else because we all know how difficult these mountains are and how difficult it is to